Unlock gripping real life, revenge stories that hit home. Subscribe today for your weekly dose of justice. The microphone screamed through the conference room like a wounded animal. 300 pairs of eyes turned toward the stage where David Anderson stood, his custom blazer catching the overhead lights. I knew what was coming before he opened his mouth. 22 years of reading people in corporate meetings had taught me to recognize an execution when I saw one. Sarah Bennett. David's voice boomed through the speakers, each syllable dripping with satisfaction. Your services are no longer required at Apex Solutions. The words hung in the air like smoke from a fired gun. I felt the weight of 300 stares shift to me, some shocked, others sympathetic, most simply confused. My heels clicked against the polished floor as I stood, maintaining the composure that had carried me through 2 decades of corporate warfare. David's smirk widened as he watched me rise. The son of Thomas Anderson, inheritor of an empire he had never built, deliverer of verdicts he had never earned. His fingers drummed against the podium with the confidence of someone who had never faced real consequences. Effective immediately, he added, savoring each word like expensive wine. The murmur started then, whispers rippling through the rows of employees like wind through wheat. They knew who I was, the architect, the one who arrived before sunrise and left after the cleaning crew, the one whose code had built the foundation of everything Apex had become. But David did not care about foundations. He cared about corner offices and company credit cards, about seeing his name on the building directory without having to earn it. I walked toward the glass doors, my reflection multiplying in the polished surfaces. The Anderson logo etched above our heads seemed to mock me with every step. 22 years, that was how long I had given to this place. My mind drifted back to the beginning, before the glass walls and marble columns, before the 300-seat auditorium and wall of monitors, back when Apex was just 30 dreamers crammed into a converted garage that smelled like motor oil and ambition. I could still feel the ache in my fingers from those endless nights of coding. Second-hand desks wobbling under the weight of refurbished equipment. The others would pitch to investors while I built the infrastructure that would hold it all together. Line by line, function by function, creating something from nothing. They called me obsessive back then. Maybe I was. But obsession was what it took to build something that could process millions of transactions without breaking. Something elegant, something mine. The memory of my father's voice pulled me forward in time. Not his actual voice, but the ghost of it, struggling through the aftermath of his stroke. I had coded from his hospital room, laptop balanced on my knees in those uncomfortable plastic chairs, the monitors beeping their electronic heartbeat while I debugged authentication protocols. The medical bills had started arriving 2 weeks after his admission, each envelope heavier than the last. I had spread them across my kitchen table like tarot cards predicting financial ruin. But Apex needed me and I needed Apex, so I stayed. I sacrificed. I built. David had come to me 6 months ago, all charm and calculated smiles. He had wanted access to the core systems, administrative privileges, the keys to the kingdom I had built. "Come on, Sarah," he had said, leaning against my office doorframe like he owned it, which technically his family did. "I need to understand how everything works if I am going to run this place." "The system has security protocols for a reason," I told him, not looking up from my screen. "Some doors should stay locked." His smile had curdled then, just for a moment. A flash of something darker before the mask slipped back into place. We will see about that. And now we had. The first error message appeared on the wall of monitors 30 seconds after I had reached the glass doors. A tiny red flag in an ocean of green status indicators. Most people would not have noticed it, but the technician monitoring contract files did. His forehead beaded with sweat as his fingers flew across his keyboard. More red flags bloomed across the displays like digital wildflowers. Transaction processing, data retrieval, authentication services, all of them stuttering, hesitating, failing. Minor hiccup, David announced to the room, waving his hand dismissively. "Restart the system." The lead technician's voice cracked. "Sir, we should investigate first." "These errors, they are not random. They are cascading through specific pathways." I said, "Restart it." David's confidence had not wavered yet. Why would it? He had never had to fix anything in his life. The monitors went dark. 300 employees held their breath. Even the air conditioning seemed to pause, waiting. Then the screens blazed back to life, and 3 words appeared in blood-red text across every display. Primary key missing. The silence that followed was absolute. You could hear David's designer shoes shifting against the stage floor. Could hear the lead technician's fingers hovering over his keyboard, afraid to type another command. What does that mean? David's voice had lost its boom. Now it was just a man trying not to sound scared. It means, the technician said slowly, the system does not recognize any administrator. It has locked us out completely. The dam broke. 300 voices erupted at once. Phones buzzed like angry wasps. Executives clutched their devices, faces draining of color as client calls flooded in. Our biggest contracts were failing to process. Millions of dollars frozen in digital limbo. I watched it all from my position by the doors. The beautiful, terrible symphony of consequences. That was when we heard them. Footsteps, heavy and deliberate, echoing through the corridor like a countdown. Thomas Anderson did not walk into rooms. He conquered them. The doors burst open, and there he stood, gray hair swept back, suit tailored to perfection despite the crisis. His eyes swept the chaos, taking in the panicked employees, the wall of errors, his son standing useless on the stage. What have you done? Thomas's voice could have frozen hell. David straightened, trying to reclaim some authority. A minor technical issue. We are handling it. Handling it. Thomas crossed to the monitors in 3 strides. His face reflected red in the error messages. We are hemorrhaging clients. Stock price is in free fall. The entire eastern seaboard cannot process transactions through our system. It is not my fault. The system is poorly designed, David started. Thomas's hand slammed onto the nearest desk. The system worked perfectly for 2 decades until today. Until you, Thomas turned to me then. And I saw something I had never seen in 22 years of board meetings and performance reviews. Desperation. Sarah, my name came out like a prayer. Please, that word hung between us. Please. Thomas Anderson had never said please to anyone below the C-suite. Maybe not even then. The system needs its primary administrator, I said quietly. It was designed that way for security. Then fix it. His shoulders sagged under invisible weight. Whatever David did, whatever he said, we can discuss it. But right now, I need you to unlock our system. David pushed past the technicians, nearly knocking a junior engineer off her feet. I can handle this. His hands shook as he approached the central terminal. I have biometric access. He pressed his thumb to the scanner. The system chirped its acceptance. For one beautiful moment, David's smirk returned. He began typing commands, trying to assert his new authority. The monitors flashed once, twice, then every screen displayed the same message. Authorization rejected. Primary key missing. Lockdown enhanced. The system had not just refused him. It had dug deeper into its defensive position like a wounded animal protecting itself from a predator. You made it worse, the senior engineer whispered, then louder. He made it worse. The young technician who had first spotted the errors spoke up, his voice carrying across the silent room. The backup is nothing without the original. The phrase spread through the crowd like fire. The backup is nothing without the original. 300 employees understanding finally what they had witnessed. David was not just failing. He was being rejected by the very DNA of the company. Thomas's phone rang. He answered with trembling fingers, his face growing paler with each word from the other end. When he hung up, his voice was hollow. We are losing $500,000 per minute. The financial dashboard confirmed it. Numbers spinning like a slot machine in reverse. Everything we had built, everything I had sacrificed for, bleeding out in real time. David slumped into a chair, his custom blazer wrinkled, his perfect hair disheveled. The prince dethroned by his own ambition. Then something extraordinary happened. The young technician started clapping, slow at first, uncertain, but others joined. Then more. The applause built like thunder. 300 people standing, their ovation directed at one person, me. I stood there, feeling the weight of their recognition, not asking for my job back, not demanding apologies, just existing in that moment of absolute vindication. You could have had everything, I said, my voice carrying without the microphone. But you could not stand that I was invisible, that something you could not see or control was holding it all together. I turned back toward the doors. Maybe that is the problem with inherited kingdoms. You never learn that the real power is not in the throne. It is in knowing how the castle was built. Thomas made one last desperate attempt. Name your price, any salary, any position. I kept walking. What they did not know, what I had never told anyone, was that I had learned something during those sleepless nights in my father's hospital room. While reviewing the company's founding documents to distract myself from the beeping monitors, I discovered a clause everyone had forgotten: the intellectual property agreements from those garage days. Before lawyers got involved, before the Anderson money transformed us into a corporation, back when we were just dreamers with a vision, the core system, the fundamental architecture that everything else was built on, belonged to its creator, to me. They could own the company, the buildings, the contracts, but the beating heart of Apex Solutions had always been mine. David had done me a favor by firing me publicly. He had severed the one thing that might have complicated my ownership, my employment. The glass doors closed behind me with a whisper. Employees lined the corridor, some nodding respectfully, others simply staring. They understood now. The system had not rebelled. It had simply recognized that its creator was leaving and decided to leave with her. Thomas's final plea echoed behind me, but I did not turn back. My heels clicked against the polished floors one last time, each step lighter than the last. The evening air hit my face as I stepped outside, cool and clean, carrying the sounds of distant traffic and life continuing despite the chaos in the tower behind me. The street lights painted everything in gold and shadow. I pulled out my phone, already buzzing with messages. Job offers, consulting requests, venture capitalists wanting to build something new with someone who understood that real power came from creation, not inheritance. But first, I had a hospital to visit, a father to tell that the medical bills would never be a problem again, that the sacrifice had been worth it. That sometimes the best revenge is not destroying what hurt you, it is taking back what was always yours. The city stretched out before me, full of possibilities. Somewhere behind me, in a glass tower with the Anderson name etched in stone, 300 employees were learning what happens when you mistake the throne for the kingdom. And David Anderson was learning that some systems cannot be inherited, cannot be bought, cannot be stolen, they have to be built. Line by line, sacrifice by sacrifice, they have to be earned. The system knew its creator. It always had. I smiled, breathing in freedom for the first time in 22 years. Tomorrow I would build something new, something without glass walls or marble columns, something that belonged to the people who created it. But tonight I would simply walk, my heels clicking against the pavement, each step a declaration. I was Sarah Bennett. I had built an empire from nothing once. I could do it again. The difference was this time I would make sure everyone knew exactly who held the keys. Some lessons, after all, are worth teaching twice. Behind me, the Apex Tower stood dark against the sky, its monitors still flashing their desperate message. Primary key missing. The digital heart of an empire refusing to beat without the one who gave it life. They say revenge is a dish best served cold, but sometimes the best revenge is not served at all. Sometimes it is simply walking away and taking everything that matters with you. Not because you planned it that way, but because some things recognize where they belong. The system recognized me. After 22 years, it was time I recognized myself, too. My phone buzzed again. Thomas Anderson. I let it ring, the sound mixing with the city noise until it became just another part of the symphony. The backup was nothing without the original. The employees had understood that. David had learned it. Thomas was living it. And me, I was free, free to build, free to create. Free to disappear into the night with the knowledge that sometimes the invisible threads holding everything together are the strongest ones of all. The street light caught my reflection in a shop window. Professional blazer slightly rumpled from the day's drama. Hair still perfectly in place despite everything. But my eyes, they were different. They held something they had not this morning. Victory. Not the kind declared from podiums or announced through microphones. The quiet kind. The kind that comes from knowing you were right all along, that your worth was never determined by someone else's recognition of it. David had given me a gift with his public humiliation. He had shown everyone what happened when you removed the cornerstone from a building. The whole thing came crashing down. I turned the corner, leaving the Apex Tower behind. Somewhere in that building, technicians were still frantically typing, trying to resurrect a system that had chosen death over serving a false master. 300 employees were updating their resumes, suddenly understanding how fragile inherited power really was. And the Andersons, they were learning that some things could not be bought, bullied, or borrowed. Some things had to be earned through sacrifice, through sleepless nights, through code written while your father recovered from a stroke, and bills piled up on your kitchen table. The city embraced me as I walked deeper into it. Anonymous again, invisible, exactly how I had always been most powerful. Tomorrow, the tech world would wake up to the story. The headlines would scream about Apex's collapse, about billions in losses, about a system that simply stopped working when its creator walked away. But tonight was mine. Tonight was for remembering every line of code, every sacrificed weekend, every time I had chosen the company over myself, not with bitterness, but with the satisfaction of knowing it had all led to this moment. The moment when the invisible became undeniable. The moment when the system chose its creator over its owners. The moment when Sarah Bennett did not rise from the ashes, but simply walked away, leaving the fire to burn itself out. My heels clicked one final rhythm against the pavement as I disappeared into the crowd. Behind me, an empire bled out through frozen transactions and error messages. Ahead of me, infinite possibility waited. The backup was nothing without the original. And the original, she was finally free.